For this one moment, know only that you are loved, that you are safe and whole and loved. Know that you belong here, here among us, here upon this earth. In your body, however tired or broken your heart may be, whatever fear or disappointment or anger you carry, for this hour, know that you are not alone. Feel the presence of others around you, surrounding you, breathing beside you and with you, discovering together the way our voices rise and fall together in harmony, in hope. Claim here a resilient freedom, the choice for love, for light, to live with joy and gratitude and praise as a form of resistance. Already we are organizing. Come, let us worship together.
Our lighting of the chalice. I invite Ayelen Vandenack to come forward and light our chalice. And everybody, please join with us in lighting the chalice by saying the chalice lighting words found in your order of service and displayed on the screen. We light this chalice for the warmth of love, for the light of truth, and for the energy of action. Thank you, Ayelen. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Ogden. My name is Tim Vandenack, and I'm the worship leader today. So the UU Church is a welcoming, inclusive place where diversity of thought is encouraged, sought, and appreciated. It doesn't matter who you love or how you identify yourself. We come here because we want to think for ourselves and explore with others. We ask questions, value the exchange of ideas, and the depth that can come from being with community. If you're new here today, welcome. We're so glad you're here. We invite you to fill out a newcomer card in the pews and put it in the offering basket when it comes by later. That way we can be in touch and help you feel connected to this community. And please stay and chat with us after the service. If you're joining us online, please fill out the newcomer card online. Please put your phones on silent. Mine's on silent. But feel free to take pictures of the service and to post what you hear and see online. Send the message to the broader community. The presence of each and every one of you adds to the atmosphere, and we are glad you're here. Welcome. So today we're going to revive an old tradition, probably some of you remember it, the Time for All Ages and the reading of a book. Typically, this has been geared to kids attending services, but even if we don't have so many kids today, I think we all can get something from it. I'll be reading Love by Matt De La Peña, and we have slides of the book appearing on the screen. Kind of fits in with our message today. And thank you to Claire for the slides. So, Love, I got it from our local library here. In the beginning, there is a light, and two wide-eyed figures standing near the foot of your bed, and the sound of their voices is love. A cab driver plays love softly on his radio while you bounce in back with the bumps of the city, and everything smells new, and it smells like life. Love, too, is the smell of crashing waves and a train whistling blindly in the distance. And each night, the sky above your trailer turns the color of love. In a crowded concrete park, you toddle towards summer sprinklers while older kids skip rope and run up the slide, and soon you are running among them, and the echo of your laughter is love. On the night the fire alarm blares, you're pulled from sleep and whisked into the street where a quiet old lady is pointing to the sky. Stars shine long after they've flamed out, she tells you, and the shine they shine with is love. But it's not only stars that flame out you discover. It's summers, too, and friendships and people. One day, you find your family nervously huddled around the TV, but when you ask what happened, they answer with silence and shift between you and the screen. In your dream that night, you are searching for a love that seems lost. You open and close drawers, lift cushions, empty old toy bins, but there's nothing. You wake with a start in the arms of a loved one who bends to your ear and whispers, "It's okay, it's okay, it's love." And in time, you learn to recognize a love overlooked, a love that wakes at dawn and rides to work on the bus, a slice of burned toast that tastes like love. And it's love in each deep crease of your grandfather's face as he lowers himself onto an overturned bucket to fish. And it's love in the rustling leaves of gnarled trees lined behind the flower fields. And it's love in the made-up stories your uncles tell in the backyard between wild horseshoe throws. And the man in rags outside the subway station plays love notes that lift into the sky like tiny beacons of light. And the face staring back in the bathroom mirror, this too is love. So when the time comes for you to set off on your own, heavy winds will sweep past your building and great gray clouds will congregate above. Your loved ones will stand there like puddles beneath their umbrellas, holding you tight and kissing you and wishing you luck. But it won't be luck you'll leave with, because you'll have love. You'll have love, love, love. And please now rise in body or spirit for our hymn, There Is a Love.
This one, the choir will sing it once so they can get a feel for it. This is not in the hymnal. So they'll sing it once through, and then feel free to join on the second time through.
Going out. At a service earlier, a couple weeks ago, we shared some details about the precarious state of this congregation. We said that we have so many things to look forward to and also some really big immediate needs. And so I want to thank all of you who have already engaged in some of the creative thinking that we need, and for those of you who have already signed up to volunteer your time for all of those needs. There is always room for more of you to say yes to volunteering, and I am sure that Dylan would love to talk to you after the service if there are any people that haven't quite said yes yet, but would love to do some volunteering. And I wanted to formally invite you to join us in 2 weeks, February 25th, for the continuation of that work that we've begun together. We'll continue the conversation on February 25th. And we have been intentionally focusing on our congregation, UUCO, and on our community of Ogden, but we are not alone. And we are part of a wider network of Unitarian Universalists. We are just one of hundreds of congregations here in the United States and globally. So today we are going to zoom out and connect to the much bigger movement of Unitarian Universalism. So we're going to start with a quote, and here it is. It's a little bit of a mouthful, so I'll try to go slow. Here's our quote. We unite in seeking to cherish and spread the universal truths taught by the great prophets and teachers of humanity in every age and tradition, immemorially summarized in the Judeo-Christian heritage as love to God and love to man. Does this sound familiar to anyone? Just raise your hand if you've heard this quote before. Love to God, love to man. Some of you might be surprised to know that this used to be one of our 6 original principles from the Unitarian Universalist merger. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to grab a copy of your gray hymnal. If you have one nearby, if you don't, just share with a friend. For those of you online, I'm going to share this in the chat. So find your hymnal, gray hymnal. And I invite you to flip past the table of contents, past the preface, just before you get to the first hymn, where you see our principles listed. And I'm going to share them in the chat right now too. Is everyone there with me? Right before that first hymn, you see a list of our 7 principles. Right at the top left there, it says, "We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote." And you might see an inkling of that principle that I just read, the one that I just quoted, sort of embedded in the language of the current principles and sources, but pretty drastically changed. Not so much of the love to God and love to man in this version of our 7 principles. So I want to give you a little bit of a refresher about our history. Some of this is going to be really familiar to some of you, and it's going to be new to others, so bear with me. In 1961, 2 religions, the Unitarians and the Universalists, decided to merge, right? We know this. These were 2 different religions, Unitarians, Universalists. They had different viewpoints, different theologies, different cultures. There were pretty large differences between the 2 of them, but there were enough similarities that it felt somewhat natural for them to come together. So I just want to imagine with you how it might feel for Unitarian Universalists nowadays to merge with another religion. Just imagine this with me. What's close for us? Maybe the United Church of Christ, maybe Unity Church. We've got some similar viewpoints with both of them. Can you imagine all the Unitarian Universalists being in a room together with either one of those religions or any other religion we decided to merge with and trying to hash out a new religion? It's not like you could be like, okay, well, at least we all believe X, Y, and Z, because we don't all share common beliefs, even amongst Unitarian Universalists. So when we decided to merge in 1961, although there were enough similarities and reasons for merger, it was not a super easy process. We didn't come together and say, okay, cool, we all agree on everything, so let's do this. Together, the Unitarians and the Universalists had a lot of discussions, a lot of arguments, and a lot of angst. And one of the things that emerged was a set of principles, not a statement of beliefs, but some things upon which they felt some agreement. 6 principles to guide this new denomination. And at the time, 1961, these were pretty bold. Embedded in those principles, there was an understanding that it wasn't a creed. It intentionally said, we don't all believe the same things, but here are some values that guide us. Another important thing that this document said was that we are an association of congregations. Basically, what they were saying was each of us is accountable to one another and to our denomination. So there are no laws of the land that are going to come down from on high, but the way we are together, what we believe together, will be co-created with care by members of our congregations. Now, our Unitarian Universalist ancestors were smart, and they knew that even though we might think we are being inclusive and thoughtful in whatever time period we're designing documents like these, that they will remain relevant only if we are open to continuous reflection and transformation. And so these original 6 principles were meant to grow with us and to change as needed. The first big changes started in the 1970s, and they were led by Unitarian Universalist women and informed by cultural changes in the wider world, when it became clear that the principles, as they had been written in the language of the 1960s, now felt sexist and exclusive. And so after many revisions, the version adopted in 1985 is what you'll recognize today, the one in our hymnal that you just took a look at. And then several years ago, as it was becoming quite clear that our congregations needed to seriously address the reality of systemic racism inherent in UU institutions, an 8th principle was introduced. Some of you have probably heard about that. And rather than wait for the Unitarian Universalist Association as a whole to decide to vote upon the eighth principle, over the years, UU congregations have been adopting it on their own. And at last count, there were nearly 300 congregations that had voted on the eighth principle to accept that as one of the principles of that particular congregation. And despite the transformative intention of our principles and sources, without a creed, for many Unitarian Universalists, the principles and sources have become akin to a statement of our beliefs, sacred and almost set in stone. Because sometimes we yearn for that, here's what we believe kind of statement. And the principles have served as a way for us to describe who we are to others. But as we know, our faith takes more work than that. And the principles were always meant to be guiding values that change and grow as humanity transforms. So in that spirit, several years ago, the Unitarian Universalist Association appointed a task force to bring our 1985 version of the principles and sources into 2024 and beyond. And this task force has been studying and reflecting and talking with thousands of Unitarian Universalists from around the country. And last June at our annual General Assembly, they shared an initial draft of this new version. This congregation, UUCO, voted to support that re-envisioning, and two of our members, Karen and John, who are here today, attended General Assembly and voted to support this new language. And then back in August, they shared their reflections from General Assembly a little over a year ago. This coming June, a final draft is going to be brought to General Assembly for us to vote upon. And this is both a routine reflection on this document as part of our being a living tradition, and it's also a historic moment because it is drastically different from what it was before. The new language feels familiar, and it is also really different from the list that's in the front of our hymnals. It describes guiding values instead of principles, which is similar to what the original intent was meant to be. Each of the current principles can find themselves somewhere in this description of the values, so they aren't gone, they're just transformed. For some of you, and for many Unitarian Universalists around the country, these feel jarring. Like if you were an original writer of the 1961 principles and then you saw the 1985 version, it feels a little weird. And for others, it feels like a really welcome update, like a much more inclusive version of who it is that we're striving to be in the world. After today's service, I'm going to send out a draft of the proposal so that you can refresh your memory if you've already read it before of all of the new language, or you can review it for the first time. So today we're going to focus on the heart of the new statement of values. And I use the heart word purposely because rather than a list of principles, the new statement offers this image of our values flowing from a center of love. So Dylan and Connor, can you pull up the image that they've been inviting us to use as we picture it? This is going to be a familiar image to some of you, and for some of you, it'll be brand new. Are we seeing the image? There we go. All right, so this is familiar to some of you. You can see love right at the center, and then each of the values coming out from love around that center chalice, that center of love. And this might feel obvious to some of you that our faith is centered around love. Unitarian Universalists approach life through this lens of love for people, that we have inherent value. Each of us have inherent value. We have love for the earth and our interconnectedness to it. We have love for the journey and our commitment to intention and care on that path. So for many of us, love is already right at the center of Unitarian Universalism. You've probably heard that when we do justice work in public and we wear our Side with Love t-shirts, that in many places, Unitarian Universalists are already known as the love people. So some fun trivia. We have two hymnals the gray one you were just looking at and the teal one. And I'd say in many ways that the hymnals are as much of a statement of our belief as anything else that we have. So what do you think is the most used word in our gray hymnal? I can't hear you, so shout them out in the room, put them in the chat. The most used word in our gray hymnal is love. So Dylan, will you put up the next slide? Somebody put the entire text of the hymnal into one of those word cloud sites where the most common words are shown as larger. And you can see right in the center, the most used word in the gray hymnal is love. All right, what about the teal hymnal? Dylan, change the slide for us. So here it is, love, right in the center of the teal hymnal. You can see all the words around there too. Okay, last piece of trivia. Can you remember the 7 or 8 principles by heart? How many times in our current version of the principles is the word love used? Okay, the answer is none. It is nowhere in any of the principles. It's right front and center in both of our hymnals. We think about ourselves as being a love people, but it's actually not anywhere in the current draft of the 7 or 8 principles. And so this recent iteration of our values, this flower image with all of our values, in some ways it states the obvious. It puts love right at the center. In other ways, it recenters it in a way that has not been part of who we are. So I'm going to pause here. We're going to sing a little song, and then we'll jump right into this idea of love at the center and what that means for Unitarian Universalists. I heard recently that a sequel to one of my favorite movies is currently being produced and will be out this summer. Inside Out 2 is the name of the movie. Did any of you see the first one? The original Inside Out is a rated PG animated film that came out in 2015. And I'm describing it as rated PG and not as a kid's movie, because it's one of those great stories that easily appeals to all ages. Inside Out is the story of an 11-year-old girl named Riley. She is a joyful kid with spunky blue hair and a bright green dress. And the storyline follows her as she is uprooted from her comfortable, familiar life in Minnesota and moves to San Francisco with her family. And we follow her as she is thrust into life experiences that feel familiar to many of us. The discomfort of starting a new school and making new friends and all those kinds of things that come with a move and becoming an older kid. The brilliance of this movie is that it turns Riley's emotions into their own animated characters. The emotions in this movie are joy, fear, anger, disgust, and sadness. And they live inside a control center inside Riley's mind called headquarters. Dylan and Connor, can you pull up the picture of headquarters so we can all be picturing this? It's coming. All right, y'all see that? There's Riley and all of her emotions in headquarters, all the controls, and you can see that they all have some opinions of their own. So the emotion characters, joy, fear, anger, disgust, sadness, they all live in headquarters and they have conversations and they make decisions together and they help guide Riley's actions. And over the life of the movie, we watch as headquarters, which used to be mostly guided by the character of Joy, is slowly overrun with the other emotions as Riley's life becomes really unfamiliar and challenging. There is one terrific scene that I just love, where after a hard day at her new school, we watch Riley interacting with her parents. And we get to see both the interactions between Riley and her parents in real life and the interactions of each of their control centers, because Riley isn't the only one with a control center. Her mom has one, her dad has one. So we simultaneously watch Riley and her parents, and we watch all of their control centers. And in the clip, Riley's parents have just asked her how her day went, and it's been a tough day. She responds with a curt, "School was great, all right." And in the control room, her character of Fear is the first one to react. And Fear says, "What was that? I thought you were going to act casual." And then we move over to Riley's mom, and she senses the underlying emotions. And she says, "Riley, is everything okay?" And when Riley sighs, we watch her dad's fear and anger emotions. Their characters get all amped up in the control room. So dad's fear character says, "She just rolled her eyes at us." And anger, who's still this character over here communicating in his headquarters, says, "All right, make a show of force. I don't want to have to put the foot down." And then we watch real life dad say, "Riley, I do not like this new attitude." Whew. Okay, well, that obviously sets off Riley's control room, which goes completely wild, especially fear and anger. Riley's anger character says to the other emotions, "Oh, I'll show you attitude, old man." To which fear fearfully says, "No, no, stay happy." And so in Riley's control room, anger and fear tussle, and anger pushes the big red button, which triggers real life Riley to say, "What is your problem? Just leave me alone." Oh boy. So now mom's headquarters are on high alert, and mom's sadness character yells, "Reporting high levels of sass." To which dad's anger screams, "Take it to DEF CON 2. So dad's emotions scurry into action, preparing the foot. To which fear says, "Ready to launch on your command, sir." And Riley's anger persona explodes and she yells to her parents, "Just shut up." And obviously that gives dad's directive, the foot. And he yells, "Go to your room." In dad's headquarters, all of the emotions cheer. They feel like they've done a great job. Riley storms off. Dad's control center says, "Good job, gentlemen. That could have been a disaster." And in mom's headquarters, her sadness character says, "Well, that was a disaster." Back in Minnesota, all of the emotions in everyone's headquarters had been relatively balanced. They took turns for control, they worked together. The anxieties of the move to San Francisco elevated the status of fear and sadness and anger, and joy rarely gets a turn at the controls. So, back in the land of Unitarian Universalism, when the new draft of Article 2, our values document, came out, people kept referring to love being at the center, informing our values and the ways that we do things as Unitarian Universalists. And I kept having flashbacks of the Inside Out movie. In naming love as the core and central to everything, I've been imagining this love character in Inside Out. Love at the control center. In a typical animated movie version, love might be the bubblegum pink character parading around the headquarters in layers of fluffy, fluffy taffeta. And we can imagine what might have happened if there was a love emotion in the headquarters during that scene earlier. When Dad asks about school and Riley curtly replies, "School was great, all right." Instead of what unfolded in the movie, love could kick into high gear. In Mom and Dad's headquarters, love would be pushing the buttons for empathy and compassion and humility. They would be orchestrating the perfect mix of grief and truth. And they would say to Hope, "Stand by, we're going to need you." So, what happens when the character, Riley, is an institution? When the character of Riley is our whole faith, all of Unitarian Universalism, not just one individual, but an entire institution. As Unitarian Universalists, we sing a lot of songs about love, and we generally agree that love is present in what we do. But until now, love hasn't actually been explicitly named. It was nowhere in our principles. And now, love has been elevated to this prime operator of our Unitarian Universalist command center. So I've been wondering if that actually changes anything. So let's imagine our Unitarian Universalist version of this movie Inside Out. Our UU version of the central headquarters. And at the helm now is our character of love. And this time, it's not the fluffy pink Hollywood version. It's the Unitarian Universalist version. This one is grounded, it's strong and stout. Maybe in our version, it resembles the fire of the chalice. It's bright and yellow and full of both sunshine and fiery strength. Can you picture some animated version of our Unitarian Universalist love character? So what does our denomination do with that at the controls? Does it look any different from the way things are now? There are so many ways that love is already embedded in our faith practice. So in some ways, putting it at the center of the new values just feels like it's naming what we already know. But sometimes naming something, putting it on paper, actually gives it more gravity. I wonder if by saying love is at the center of our faith, if we actually start owning that a little bit more. And lest we forget, we are a covenantal faith, not a creedal faith. We covenant. We don't believe the same things. We don't have to believe the same things to be in community together, but we agree to be together in particular ways. And this new language clarifies what we know as true, that love is the way that we want to be together as Unitarian Universalists. The new Article 2 language calls it a spiritual discipline of love. And I'm not sure if we can yet imagine all the ways that centering love might transform our faith. Perhaps we'll feel more courageous, more confident, more bold. As a covenantal community, we are accountable to exploring what it means together and then living into that covenant together. So it's not enough to just write it on paper or have a little flower image. We have to figure out how it is that we're going to live into that together. So there are a couple ways for us at UUCO to explore living into this as a community. The first is that I am going to begin offering an online class, 4 sessions, that explores the changes to Article 2 and the values that are expressed and what that means for us. And so if you are interested in participating, send me an email by Saturday if you can, minister@uuco.org if you're interested in participating. Once we've decided who wants to participate, we'll decide together a time for our sessions that works for all of us. Online class, 4 sessions. Send me an email if you're interested in participating. I also encourage you to get connected to the larger conversation that's happening in Unitarian Universalism, because it is inspiring to remember that you are connected to a much larger movement of Unitarian Universalists. It's not just us. There is going to be a regional assembly happening in Denver in April. I will be there. And I would love to explore attending as a group if some of you might be interested in being there too. Another way that we can keep exploring is at General Assembly this year. Our annual General Assembly, which is the gathering of all of the Unitarian Universalists from around the country and our partners globally, where we're going to be voting on these new values, is meeting in June. And this year, it is all online, which means it's possible for many of us to participate. I'd love to explore maybe organizing watch parties and reflection groups and have this be a fun opportunity for us to feel empowered by this larger interconnected movement of faith. And throughout this month, I will be sharing resources for us to keep thinking about what might change when we center love, when we put love right in charge of our control center. And I hope that you will take advantage of this opportunity to keep reflecting on this vision of a fiery, revolutionary love placed right at the center of Unitarian Universalism. How will we let that change us for the better? And incidentally, also in June is the release date for Inside Out 2. Maybe we should take a congregational movie field trip and see what new wisdom we can glean for our faith. And I love you all. I invite you to take a few breaths and sit with me in silence and stillness while we bring to mind all of those people and places that are on our hearts this morning. Let's just be for a moment. Slow and still breaths, holding all that we love, knowing that we are surrounded by love. Now for these words of Elizabeth Saunter. Spirit of life, love which holds us, we gather in reverence and thanks for you. We are grateful for the gift of another breath, and for each moment of connection and beauty and truth. Cry with us in our pain for our world. Remind us that we are loved just as we are. Remind us that we are connected with all that is. And remind us that we do not journey alone. Give us what we need for today. Call us back to our promises and our commitments and values. Help us love ourselves and each other, and to show that love in our actions. Make us instruments of justice, equity, and compassion, and free us from all that is evil. We declare that life and love are stronger than tyranny and fear, that a world of beauty and love is coming, and we must shape it together. May it be so. Amen. And we continue in our collective prayer by coming forward to engage in our weekly ritual that helps us collectively hold all of the challenges and the joys of being human. I invite you to come forward and light a candle, and as you do so, to let it hold your hopes and your memories and your gratitudes for this beautiful, complicated world. And I invite you to drop a stone into our sacred gathering waters. May it be an opportunity to imagine those burdens held in a community that will let the stone land with care and intention. Please come forward.
Keeping these doors open, keeping this church going requires not only your goodwill and participation, but funding. We appreciate anything you're able to offer. Please give what you can. We appreciate your generosity. And now we will pass the basket. Can I get a volunteer? Now please rise, embody your voice, and facing the center aisle, sing together the offering song printed in the order of service.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
Thank you for giving. This offering helps this church, helps us in our effort to improve the world in big ways and small. And please be seated. Few announcements. Connect with Kristen, our minister, via her Zoom room, as usually on Thursdays from 10:30 a.m. to noon. Bring your questions, comments, thoughts, and dreams. If you're in the waiting room, hold tight. That means she's with someone else and we'll get to you soon. And again, every weekday through March 1st, as the Utah legislature is in session, a contingent will be gathering at the state capitol to draw attention to the continuing need to restore the Great Salt Lake. These vigils are meant to celebrate all the species the lake sustains, and all are invited. Walk with Waves vigils are held from 8 to 9 in the morning each weekday, and Celebrate the Species walks will be held 5 to 6 p.m. in the afternoon. Related to that, you're invited to join the Salt Lake City Unitarian Church's environmental ministry and local government groups in lobbying lawmakers on issues related to the lake as the legislative session continues. A sign-up form is in the online newsletter that's sent out. And we have a couple other announcements. Chalice, do you want to offer up yours?
Have some postcards. We can do a postcarding campaign. And it just says, people of faith all across Utah urge you to protect the Great Salt Lake. I even filled in a little message on the back. So all you need to do is just sign your name and just put in the address of your state legislature or senator or both. I printed up 50 of these. So feel free to find me during fellowship hour and grab them. Okay.
Karen?
Our little Girl Scout troop, 17, of which we now have 9 members, hosted the annual Girl Scout Day of Giving Back. We had 19 girls and 12 adult leaders and parents here over in the gym, and we assembled 167 toiletry kits for the Lantern House and for YCC. Thank you to everyone who contributed money and materials to make that happen. Thank you.
Nice. And now, will you please join in singing our closing hymn, Rise and Body Your Spirit. It's number 1008, Joseph. When our heart is in a holy place.
Is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in is in a holy place. When I share the sun in some secret space, and the God of our hearts turns with me, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
As the service comes to an end, join me in saying the chalice extinguishing words in the order of service. We extinguish this chalice, but not to warm the love, the light of truth, nor the energy of action. As we leave this space, I offer these closing words from Eric Williams. We all emerge from, dwell within, are transformed by, and called back to love. May your mind be humbled before this mystery. May your heart grow hopeful by it. May you be sustained by this love always.